Let's be real, when you think of birds in North America, you're probably picturing bald eagles, blue jays, or that one annoying goose that chased you as a kid. But beyond the backyard feeders and highway signs, there's a whole secret world of birds out there. Strange birds, beautiful birds, rare birds. In this video, we're taking you on a journey across a continent, from Arctic ice to desert cliffs, remote pine forests to subtropical valleys, to meet 15 rare bird species you've probably never seen or even heard of. Some live on mountaintops, some hide in cactus, and one makes its nest behind waterfalls. Yeah, real birds do that. So if you thought you knew North America's birds, you might want to sit down for this one. Drop a comment if you've seen any of these in real life, or if one of them just made your new bird crush list. All right, binoculars out, curiosity on, let's fly. Most rare birds are hard to find. This one, it used to be nearly impossible. Meet the Kirtlands Warbler. A striking little songbird with a blue-gray back, yellow belly, and a bold black streak across its flanks. It's about 5.5 inches long, but don't let its size fool you. This bird has a comeback story that would make a Hollywood producer cry. For most of its life, the Kirtlands Warbler went completely unnoticed. Why? Because it's incredibly picky. It only nests in young jackpine forests, about 5 to 20 years old. And those forests need to be in sandy soil, mostly in Michigan's Lower Peninsula. Not older pines, not other trees, just jackpine, just young, just Michigan. By the 1970s, with fire suppression and logging changing forest cycles, its nesting habitat nearly vanished, and so did the warbler. At one point, there were fewer than 200 singing males left. But then, something amazing happened. Conservationists stepped in. They planted jack pines, managed burns, even controlled brown-headed cowbirds, nest parasites that laid eggs in warbler nests. And guess what? It worked. Today, Kirtland's warbler populations have rebounded to over 2,000 males. And in 2019, the species was officially removed from the U.S. endangered species list. Fun fact, despite being a North American native, it winters in the Bahamas. Because even rare birds know the value of a good beach vacation. But don't get too comfy. The warbler's survival still depends on active habitat management. Without fire, without planting, the forests age and the warblers disappear again. So if you ever find yourself hiking a young jackpine forest in Michigan, pause. Listen for the warbler's sweet buzzy song. You're not just hearing a bird, you're hearing a species that refuse to give up. Some rare birds hide in trees. This one throws dance parties at dawn. Meet the Gunnison Sage grouse. A plump, ground-dwelling bird found only in a few counties of southwestern Colorado and eastern Utah. It's about 15 to 17 inches tall, covered in mottled gray, brown, and white plumage, perfect for blending into the sagebrush desert. But during mating season in spring, the males do anything but blend in. They gather in open areas called leks, puff up their chests, fan out spiky tail feathers, and, here's the best part, inflate two bright yellow air sacs on their chests, which they pop in and out with a weird, popping bubble sound while bouncing in place. It's like a slow-motion chest beatbox mixed with interpretive dance. Female grouse? They stroll through the lek like judges on a reality show, choosing mates based on display quality. No pressure. The Gunnison Sage grouse was only recognized as a separate species in 2000, distinct from its close cousin, the greater sage grouse. But it's smaller, has thicker head plumes, and a narrower habitat range. Fun fact, it's one of the rarest birds in North America, with fewer than 5,000 individuals remaining in the wild. Its biggest threat? Habitat loss from development, energy drilling, road building, and fragmented sagebrush ecosystems. Because it relies on large, unbroken tracts of sagebrush to survive and breed, even small disturbances can collapse a local population. The species is listed as threatened under the U.S. Endangered Species Act, and protected areas and conservation easements are helping preserve key habitat. But make no mistake, this is a bird on the brink, still dancing for its future. So next time you think rare bird means colorful feathers and tropical jungles, remember, sometimes rarity looks like a puffed up chicken doing interpretive dance at sunrise in the middle of Colorado. Not all rare birds are colorful. Some are cold, quiet, and absolutely massive. Meet the Yellowbuild loon, the largest diving bird in North America, measuring up to 35 inches long with a 5-foot wingspan. If it swam past you, you'd think it was a submarine with feathers. It looks a lot like the more familiar common loon, but its pale ivory-colored bill, held slightly angled upward, makes it stand out if you're lucky enough to ever see one. And that's the thing, you probably won't. The Yellowbuild loon breeds in remote Arctic tundra regions of Alaska and Canada, nesting near freshwater lakes that remain frozen most of the year. In winter, it migrates to coastal areas of the North Pacific, but always stays far from the human eye. It's a master diver, catching fish with swift underwater chases, often disappearing for up to a full minute beneath the surface. Its haunting, echoing call has been described as a cross between a wolf howl and a flute, a soundtrack to the wild silence of the far north. Fun fact, despite its size and vocal talent, the Yellowbuild loon is incredibly sensitive to disturbance. Even a float plane or passing boat near a nest can cause parents to abandon their eggs. It's listed as near threatened, with an estimated global population of just 16,000 to 20,000 individuals. In the US, it's under review for protection due to risks from oil development, climate change, and increased human activity in the Arctic. Because it nests in such remote places, monitoring this species is a huge challenge. Most data comes from satellite tracking and indigenous observations. The Yellowbuild loon may not win awards for showmanship, but in the vast stillness of Arctic lakes, its voice and presence command a kind of respect few birds can match. It's not flashy, it's not famous, but it's one of the rarest giants flying under the radar. If there was ever a bird with a comeback more dramatic than any movie, this is it. Meet the California Condor, the largest flying bird in North America, with a wingspan stretching up to 10 feet. That's wider than most pickup trucks, and yes, just as intimidating when it glides silently overhead. Its bald head is pinkish-orange. Its body is jet black with bold white underwings, and when it flies, it doesn't flap. It soars for hours. But for all its majesty, this bird nearly vanished forever. By 1987, only 27 California condors remained on Earth, and every single one was captured and placed into a captive breeding program. It was controversial, risky, and absolutely necessary. Fast forward to today, there are now over 500 individuals, with more than 300 flying wild across California, Arizona, Utah, and Baja, Mexico. It wasn't just breeding that saved them. It was also science, policy, and patience. Lead poisoning from spent bullets and carcasses was, and still is, the biggest threat. So conservationists pushed for lead-free ammunition, education campaigns, and massive public support. Fun fact, California condors can live over 60 years, and they only raise one chick every 2 years, making their recovery incredibly slow, but deeply meaningful. They don't hunt, they scavenge, feeding on dead animals, helping clean ecosystems like feathered garbage collectors. Despite progress, the species is still critically endangered, and every free-flying bird is tagged and tracked. Each one matters, each one is a miracle. So if you're ever in Grand Canyon or Big Sur and spot a massive silhouette drifting over the cliffs, that's not just a bird. That's 10 feet of hope, soaring on a second chance. Graceful, ghost white, and once nearly gone forever. This is the whooping crane, North America's tallest bird, standing nearly 5 feet tall with a 7.5-foot wingspan and a call so loud and haunting you can hear it from 2 miles away. Its body is all white, with a striking red crown and black wingtips that show only in flight. When they soar in pairs, necks outstretched, legs trailing behind, they don't look like birds, they look like myth. But this myth almost ended. In 1941, the global population dropped to just 21 individuals. Not 21 breeding pairs, 21 birds, total. Habitat loss, hunting, and disruption of migration routes brought the species to the brink. But decades of conservation, including captive breeding, wetland protection, and reintroduction, turned the tide. Today, about 800 whooping cranes exist in the world, including over 500 in the wild. Their main population migrates between Wood Buffalo National Park in Canada and Aransas National Wildlife Refuge in Texas, a journey of 2,500 miles. Fun fact, young cranes raised in captivity are taught to migrate by following ultralight aircraft flown by humans in bird costumes. Yes, really. And yes, there's footage. You're welcome. They mate for life. They dance, leaping, bowing, calling in duet. And they symbolize something very few animals do, a near miracle. But challenges remain. Wetland loss, power lines, illegal shootings, and climate change still threaten their fragile recovery. The whooping crane is more than just rare. It's sacred to many, a living emblem of what's possible when humans choose protection over destruction. So, if you ever hear a wild, echoing call over the marshlands, look up. You might just see the sky making room for something extraordinary. In the hush of dawn, atop wind-battered peaks in the northeast, a soft, fluted song drifts through the mist. That's the sound of the Bicknells thrush, one of North America's least understood and most range-restricted songbirds. It's a small, slender brown thrush, about 7 inches long, easily mistaken for its cousin, the gray-cheeked thrush. But it's not just a look-alike, it's a loner. Bicknells thrush breeds only in high-elevation spruce fir forests, in parts of New York, Vermont, New Hampshire, Maine, and a few spots in southeastern Canada. We're talking mountaintops, windy, cold, and wild. Its nesting season lasts barely 2 months. After breeding, it vanishes, migrating all the way to the Caribbean, especially the Dominican Republic and Haiti, where it spends winter hidden in cloud forests few ever enter. Its song? A spiraling, flute-like whistle, delicate, haunting, and hard to trace. Most birders hear it before they see it, if they ever do. Fun fact, Bicknells thrush is one of the only North American songbirds where females may mate with multiple males, and males help feed the chicks, sometimes without knowing if they're even the dad. Modern relationships, bird edition. Sadly, it's also highly vulnerable to climate change. As warming temperatures shift forest zones higher, its specialized breeding habitat may shrink, right off the mountaintop. Other threats include acid rain damaging forests, deforestation in both breeding and wintering grounds, and human development on ridgelines. There may be fewer than 100,000 individuals left, and most people don't even know it exists. The Bicknells thrush isn't rare because it's flashy. It's rare because it's quiet, hidden, and holding on to the last wild edges of the Northeast. In a pine forest in the American South, you might hear a soft tapping, but you'll need sharp eyes to catch the source. Meet the Redcockaded woodpecker, a rare bird with simple black and white plumage, a clean white cheek patch, and, in males, a tiny, nearly invisible stripe of red behind the eye. That's the cockade. And yes, it's more subtle than you'd expect. It's about 7 to 8 inches long and lives almost exclusively in mature longleaf pine forests, the kind of trees that are at least 80 to 100 years old. No young pines, no hardwoods. It's a specialist with very picky taste. But what really sets this species apart? Its family values. Red-cockaded woodpeckers are cooperative breeders. That means a breeding pair is often helped by 1 to 3 helpers, usually male offspring from previous years, who stick around, help feed the chicks, and defend the territory. It's like a multi-generational household in the bird world, with chores. They're also unique in that they excavate their nest cavities in living pine trees, especially ones infected with heart rot, which softens the core. This process can take up to a year, slow and deliberate, but worth it. Fun fact, they even drill small holes around the cavity entrance, causing resin to leak and coat the trunk, a natural defense system against snakes and other predators. Once widespread across the southeastern U.S., Redcockaded woodpeckers declined due to logging, fire suppression, and urban sprawl. By the 1970s, they were listed as endangered, with numbers dipping below 10,000 individuals. Today, thanks to active management, prescribed burns, and artificial nest cavities, the population is slowly rebounding, but it still remains one of the most conservation-dependent species in the country. It's a bird that reminds us, sometimes the rarest things aren't loud or showy, but simply a family sticking together in the right kind of forest. Some birds are rare, some are elusive, and some make you hike a mountain just for a chance to say hello. Meet the Kalema warbler, a small, grayish songbird with warm, yellow undertail coverts, a faint orange wash on its chest, and a subtle charm that says, "I'm not flashy, but I'm worth the effort." An effort, you say? You'll need it. In the United States, this bird breeds only in one place, Big Bend National Park in West Texas. And even there, only in remote canyons at high elevation. We're talking 7 to 10 miles of hiking uphill in the desert heat. Birders call it the Kalema pilgrimage. The rest of its population lives in the Sierra Madre Mountains of Mexico, where it's still considered uncommon. The bird itself is about 5 inches long, quiet, and prefers shady oak pine woodlands with plenty of cover. You won't find it singing from a treetop like some warblers. Instead, you'll hear its delicate, buzzy trill echoing through the rocks. Fun fact, the Kalema warbler wasn't even officially documented in the US until 1932, when a Smithsonian expedition stumbled across it in Big Bend. Before that, no one knew it ventured north at all. Its elusive nature and limited range make it a bucket list bird for American birders, not just because of its rarity, but because you have to earn the sighting. Thankfully, it's not currently endangered, but its limited range and sensitivity to fire, drought, and climate shifts make it vulnerable in the long term. The Kalema warbler is a quiet treasure of the desert mountains, a feathered reminder that the rarest moments often require the longest hikes. It's small, it's fast, and at one point, it was almost gone. Say hello to the Blackcapped viro. A tiny, energetic songbird with olive green wings, a white belly, and, as the name suggests, a sleek black cap that makes it look like a tiny jazz musician. Males wear the cap proudly. Females, a bit more modest, grayish but no less stylish. This species is only about 4.5 inches long and once ranged widely through Texas, Oklahoma, and parts of northern Mexico. But by the late 20th century, it was in serious trouble. Why? Thoughtful. Well, habitat loss from overgrazing, fire suppression, and land development, nest parasitism from brown-headed cowbirds, which lay eggs in vireo nests, leaving the parents to raise cowbird chicks instead. By the late 1980s, there were fewer than 350 known individuals. But here's where the story turns around. Conservationists got to work. They managed habitats using prescribed fire to restore low, brushy areas the bird loves. They controlled cowbird populations, and they launched long-term monitoring programs. Cuccles, fun fact, the black-capped vireo requires open scrub habitat with scattered shrubs just 3 to 6 feet tall. It doesn't like dense forest or wide open fields. It's a Goldilocks kind of bird. Everything has to be just right. Thanks to decades of effort, the species rebounded to over 14,000 individuals, and in 2018, it was officially removed from the U.S. endangered species list. It still faces threats from development and invasive species, but it's now one of North America's best conservation success stories. The black-capped vireo isn't flashy. It doesn't migrate thousands of miles, but it proves that with the right care, even the most vulnerable birds can sing again. Some owls haunt ancient forests, others lurk in ruins, but this one, it prefers a cozy hole in a cactus. Meet the elf owl. The smallest owl on Earth, standing just 5 inches tall and weighing less than 1.5 ounces. That's about the size and weight of a deck of cards. No joke. It lives in desert regions of the southwestern US and northern Mexico, especially in Arizona, New Mexico, Texas, and down through Baja and Sonora. Its preferred real estate? Old woodpecker holes in giant saguaro cacti, or sometimes in oak trees and utility poles. With its big yellow eyes, round face, and short tail, the elf owl looks like something a cartoonist would invent. But don't be fooled. It's a stealthy, efficient predator. It feeds mainly on insects and spiders, snatching beetles, moths, and scorpions right out of the night air. Yes, it eats scorpions, like a tiny, fearless ninja. Unlike many owls, it's migratory, heading to Mexico in winter and returning north to breed in spring. Fun fact, its call is a rapid, high-pitched choop, 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 easily mistaken for an insect, which is fitting since it often shares its nighttime hours with them. The elf owl is also a master of disguise. During the day, it flattens itself against tree bark or cactus to avoid detection. At night, it becomes a swift blur of wings. Though not currently endangered, it faces threats from habitat destruction, particularly loss of old-growth saguaros and riparian woodlands. Urban sprawl and light pollution also affect its hunting grounds. Still, it's holding on, a tiny hunter in the desert shadows, making the most of its miniature kingdom. The elf owl reminds us that rare doesn't always mean massive or majestic. Sometimes, rare means adorably fierce and hiding in a cactus right under your nose. You can walk for miles through open prairie and never see this bird. But you might hear it, a soft, spiraling song drifting from the clouds. This is the Sprags pippet, one of the most secretive grassland birds in North America. It's about 6 inches long, pale brown, finely streaked, the perfect camouflage for tall, windswept grass. So perfect, in fact, you could be standing right next to one and not know it. Named after naturalist Isaac Sprague, this pippet breeds in the northern Great Plains. Windswept starty from southern Canada down into the Dakotas, Montana, and parts of Wyoming. But here's the twist. It does most of its singing while flying hundreds of feet in the air, hovering and circling for up to 30 minutes, pouring out a sweet, falling trill that sounds like the wind whistling through poetry. That's right. The Sprags pippet is easier to hear than see. Most birders log their sightings by ear alone. Fun fact, this bird is one of the very few songbirds in the world that sings almost exclusively in flight. It's like a musical kite, only alive, and very shy. Its wintering grounds are in the southwestern US and northern Mexico. But even there, it avoids roads, trails, and anything remotely human. Unfortunately, its preferred habitat, native tallgrass prairie, has declined dramatically. Farming, grazing, and energy development have chopped it into fragments. As a result, Sprague's pippet is listed as vulnerable, and its numbers continue to decline quietly. It doesn't dazzle. It doesn't pose for photos. But in the right place, on a calm morning, if you look up, not down, you might hear the sky sing. The Sprague's pippet is a whisper in the grasslands, and one we may not hear forever. You could hike past one a dozen times and never know it was there. This is the Dusky grouse, a chunky ground-dwelling bird found in the mountainous forests of the western United States, from the Rockies in Colorado and Montana to the Sierra Nevada in California. It's about 15 to 17 inches long, with a plump body, long tail, and muted gray-brown feathers that let it melt into the forest floor like a shadow. At a glance, it looks unremarkable until spring arrives. That's when the males transform from background decor into booming, puffed-up performers. They fan their tails, inflate yellow throat sacs, and make deep, low-pitched hooting calls like a forest didgeridoo. It's not loud, but it echoes, and it works, attracting females to their carefully chosen display spots among the pines. The dusky grouse was once lumped together with its cousin, the sooty grouse, but scientists split them in the early 2000s due to differences in DNA, calls, and range. Today, the dusky rules the interior mountains, while the sooty sticks to the coastal ranges. Fun fact, in winter, the dusky grouse eats mostly pine needles. Yes, pine needles, and often roosts in snow-laden trees, like a living ornament with feathers. Its population is considered stable overall, but local declines have been noted due to logging, development, and fire suppression, which alters the open understory it prefers for breeding. Despite its size, it's a bird that often goes unnoticed. It doesn't migrate far. It doesn't flash bright colors. It simply blends in. But for those who pause in the stillness of a mountain morning, the dusky grouse offers a rare moment of wildness, unfiltered, unbothered, and deeply rooted in the forest. Imagine birdwatching in southern Arizona. Scrub oaks, desert heat, the usual suspects chirping around, when suddenly a fireball lands in a tree. That's not a hallucination. It's the flame-colored tanager. A dazzling bird in vibrant shades of deep orange to scarlet, with black wings and a bold, cocky presence. This species is native to Mexico and Central America, where it inhabits pine oak forests in the highlands. But every few years, almost like clockwork, and sometimes not, a few bold individuals wander north and show up in southeastern Arizona, especially in the Sky Islands region. When that happens, it's birder mayhem. People drive hundreds of miles for a chance to glimpse it. Photos are taken, tweets are tweeted, field guides are flipped. The males are unmistakable. Their fiery color makes even cardinals look tame. Females are paler, but still beautiful, with warm yellow-orange tones. Fun fact, the first confirmed U.S. nesting of the flame-colored tanager occurred in Arizona in 2003 and has happened sporadically since, mostly involving hybrid pairs with western tanagers. Yes, this firebird is into cross-cultural dating. In terms of song, it sounds quite similar to its tanager cousins, a pleasant, melodic warble. But its sudden appearance and tropical flair are what make it unforgettable. It's not endangered, but its U.S. appearances are rare, irregular, and unpredictable, like a spark that only lands when conditions are just right. The flame-colored tanager reminds us that even in dry deserts, color can explode from nowhere, reminding us how thin the line is between the familiar and the extraordinary. So next time you're in the canyons of southern Arizona, keep one eye on the trees. You never know when fire might perch. It's one of the most mysterious birds in North America. Not because it's small or rare, but because it nests in places we almost never look. Meet the black swift, a sleek, dark, fast-flying bird that spends most of its life on the wing, and when it finally lands, it chooses places like behind waterfalls, in dark, wet crevices, on sheer cliffs, or inside deep caves with mist and shadow. Its body is about 7 inches long, slender and crescent-winged, built for high-altitude flight. Its plumage, almost entirely black, which makes spotting it in flight or at rest incredibly hard. And that's not an accident. The black swift is the ultimate stealth nester. It breeds in very specific, hard-to-reach sites in the western US and Canada, from Colorado and California to British Columbia. Researchers only confirmed its wintering grounds in South America in 2009, after attaching tiny geolocators to wild birds. Before that, no one knew where it disappeared to each fall. Fun fact, some black swifts nest directly behind Yosemite Falls, one of the tallest waterfalls in North America. Talk about real estate with a view and a constant cold shower. They feed exclusively on insects caught mid-air and are often seen soaring thousands of feet high, darting like shadows at dusk. Unfortunately, their specialized nesting needs make them highly sensitive to climate change and shifting rainfall patterns. Less water equals fewer waterfalls equals fewer nesting sites. They're currently listed as vulnerable and in some states threatened or endangered locally. The black swift isn't flashy. You won't find it at your feeder. But in the hidden corners of cliffs and mist, it lives like a secret and vanishes like smoke. Some birds sing, some birds soar. This one vanishes into waterfalls. Imagine a bird that lives where almost nothing else survives. No trees, no towns, just ice. This is the Ivory Gull, a stunning ghostly white seabird of the high Arctic, so rarely seen that even seasoned birders call it mythical. It's about 17 inches long with an all-white body, inky black legs, and a blue-gray bill with a yellow tip, the only splash of color in a bird that looks like it was carved from snow. Ivory gulls live and breed in the drifting pack ice of the Arctic Ocean, nesting on remote islands near northern Canada, Greenland, and Siberia. They follow polar bears, feeding on scraps left from seal kills, and scavenge the icy seas for anything edible: fish, carrion, even whale remains. Basically, they're the Arctic's cleanup crew. But here's the thing. They're so rarely seen in the continental US that when one shows up, usually in winter, blown south by storms, it causes an all-out birder stampede. Fun fact, in 2021, an ivory gull was spotted in New Jersey. Within 24 hours, birders from 10 states had driven in. Hotels were booked. Lenses were cleaned. One bird, one day, total frenzy. Sadly, this majestic species is in serious trouble. The global population is estimated at only 7,000, 10,000 birds, and falling due to climate change, mercury pollution, and declines in Arctic sea ice. And because they nest in such remote, unmonitored regions, scientists fear we may be losing them without even noticing. The ivory gull is not just rare, it's the end of the world rare. The kind of rare that reminds us how quickly cold, fragile ecosystems can melt away. So if you ever spot one, gliding low over icy water, barely making a sound, consider yourself incredibly lucky. You've just seen the ghost of the Arctic before it disappears. If you've made it this far, you've just met 15 of the rarest birds in all of North America. From cactus owls to Arctic ghosts, these species prove that wonder is still out there. Sometimes high above, sometimes hidden in plain sight. Let us know in the comments. Which one surprised you the most? Which one made your bird bucket list? And hey, if you love this journey through the skies, hit that like button, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you won't miss the next rare flight we take. Nature doesn't always announce itself. Sometimes you've got to listen, sometimes you've got to look harder, and sometimes it flies right past you, silent as a shadow. See you in the next one.